Welcome back to another episode of the Experts in Fire podcast by Woodland Direct. I'm your host, Mike Vennard, and with me today is one of our master hearth professionals, Randy Mowry. Today's episode is, what do I need to know before buying gas logs? Let's get into it. Hey Randy, how you doing, man?
Good, Mike. How's it going today, sir?
It is going great. The sun is shining, birds are chirping. Well, hey, we're talking about what do I need to know before buying gas logs, right? And I know we talked about converting a wood fireplace to gas. So is this kind of the step up to that? What does somebody need to know about gas logs, or what do they need to know before they even buy gas logs?
We want a client to know what type of fireplace they currently have, because it does make a difference based on the type of log set they want to go into. And the two primary differences are masonry, full brick and mortar with a brick and mortar clay line chimney, or a brick chimney. It may not necessarily have a clay liner in it, but it is a full masonry chimney. And then the other being what they call prefabricated or zero clearance fireplace, which is behind like the brick. Because I think what happens is a lot of folks, they see this brick wall on the face of their fireplace, so they think it's a masonry fireplace. Well, beyond that brick wall, it could be what they call the metal box, the zero clearance box. It was nailed into some 2x4 construction, and then it had a brick facade put on it. But on the inside, the chassis itself is all metal with a refractory cement brick panels on the floor of it and all three sides. But then more importantly, and the most noticeable difference is it has a metal chimney flue going all the way up. It's not a full masonry or masonry brick line. So those are the two primary differences. And that's usually like always the first question I ask folks when we start talking about logs is, what type of fireplace you have. So we would like folks to know that first, because that's important, when we get into gas log options and why they're calling for gas logs.
Now that we're there, let's say, Randy, we're there. We know we can. We've got our pros ready to go. What types of things do I need to know? Or really, I think the better way to say it is, what types of questions would you ask to help me as a homeowner or a purchaser of those logs determine what I want to run with?
No, absolutely. So secondary after that is, why are we converting to gas logs? Are we converting because we're just tired of burning wood, but we still want that big flame presentation? Or are we converting because we're tired of burning wood and losing heat out of the house, and we want to go to a log set that's going to provide heat into the space? You got two different types of log sets. You have vented and you have ventless logs. The vented logs are going to be classified like a decorative log set. We're going to be able to get to simulate a real log, big flame, or as close as the log presentation as we can get, I should say. But we're going to be able to get that big flame. We might be able to get a log set depending on the size of someone's fireplace up to 100,000 BTUs or more. And it's going to be decorative, meaning it's, the flue's going to open just like they do when they burn wood, but it's going to give them that nice big roaring flame that they're used to. Or are we converting to gas because now we want heat? We're not necessarily getting older, but we're just tired of messing with the wood and losing heat and air conditioning out of the house. We want something to be able to turn it on, take the chill out of the house, in that particular space. Well, then it's a ventless log set. That's where our first step in knowing what type of fireplace we have is important, because masonry fireplaces, we can put vented or vent-free in all day long. Prefabricated fireplaces, we're going to have some limitations there. Not all prefabricated fireplaces are applicable for a ventless gas log set. So that's going to be a little bit on the homeowner to get a hold of the manufacturer of their fireplace and or refer to their manual if they still have one or can get one. There's different search engines out there to find manuals for old fireplaces.
Yeah, so once we've determined how this firebox that I currently have can be converted, usually wood burning people aren't looking for vent-free, because the flames are so tamed on a vent-free situation, unless they're looking for heat. That is the big thing. If they're looking to close a hole, and that's really, when you think about it, that's what a fireplace is. Any fireplace is a hole in your home. When you talk about airflow, when you talk about replacement air, you have to talk about how big is the straw sticking out of the balloon. So you have a hole in your home, and some people just want to be able to flip a switch and have beautiful flames, and other people go, I want to close that hole in my house and really be able to utilize something for heat. So from there, what I'd really like to focus on is I do want a gas log set, a vented gas log set. I'm going to utilize my chimney, my flue, the way I have with the wood burning, but I want to put a gas log set in there. How do I go about determining which one is going to work best for me?
Yeah, no, it's a great question because it's a very common question. So masonry fireplace, we already know we just want it for decorative, so we're going to use a vented gas log set. What is going to be best for you? Logs are great because they come in a ton of varieties, shapes, sizes, and colors. It's also kind of the downfall sometimes because there are so many options. So one of the easy ways also to narrow it down is how folks want to be able to control it. Do we want just something that has a manual safety valve where we have a standing pilot and we're just turning a control knob and igniting the main burner? Or do we want to get into something that has remote controls? And then those remote controls are going to be, they're going to vary across the board between different manufacturers on what's available. We'll chat on whether we want an oak or a birch log because aesthetics are going to be important. Everybody's taste is going to be different. And that's going to be a huge driving factor as far as the log set goes. And then also controls. And then the size of the fireplaces. That's one of the things that we're going to need, measurements on the fireplace itself. Because most fireplaces, as you know, Mike, there's no common size. The only common size is when, somebody makes a prefabricated box and they make 10,000 of them. When we're talking masonry fireplaces, those could vary from house to house in the same subdivision.
Absolutely, and we have seen some pretty crazy stuff in terms of folks who have wanted to convert to gas logs, and they're taking the measurements, and we're going, wait, hold on, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
What you really have is masons are artists, and they can create a particular look in that firebox, which is super cool. But what happens is now the original builder has this really cool firebox, and let's say it was put in, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and now you have a person who's going, well, I don't want to burn wood. I want to put this gas log set in there. So we've done log sets before where the guy's like, hey, my top logs won't go on, and we're like, what? What are you talking about? So I'm really just trying to bring up every scenario for our listeners out there to help them understand that you're placing this size of a rectangle. In essence, it's got height, it's got depth, it's got width, and it's going to go into that firebox. So that's going to be one of the most important things that needs to be done is accurate measurements. How can this rectangle, three-dimensional rectangle, fit into this space?
A huge driving factor is the aesthetics of a log. And because it is personal, it's going to be in their home. We can recommend some of the most popular log sets that we offer. We have some that are a lot more, we'll call it authentic looking than others. That's going to drive pricing from a pricing standpoint, of course. But the log presentation, the log look is important to clients. We touched on controls. If a particular log set does not have a control that the client works, so we might be able to pair it up with just a set of controls that they want if that manufacturer doesn't offer them. If you have a fireplace that will easily fit a 30-inch manual safety pilot ignition system on a 30-inch, but however you want to use we'll call it variable flame remote control, well, we may have to downsize to a 24-inch log set to allot for the space that's required for the controls based on the manufacturer specifications.
That moves us from, okay, I definitely want a gas log set, I want a vented set, and this is the beautiful log set that I want to stare at for years to come. As soon as you get past that point and you start talking measurements and what size, you have to talk controls. What do people want to be able to accomplish with a gas log set. And there are some cool options out there, but depending on what you want to do in terms of control is also going to dictate some of the journey into what product you can use.
You have fire-related questions, and we have answers. You can email us your questions at podcast@woodlanddirect.com or give us a call at 586-221-3638. We would love to be able to answer them right here on the Experts in Fire podcast.
We sell a lot of gas logs.
Lots.
Year round. We've noticed that it used to be 3, 4, 5 years ago. It was really a third and fourth quarter kind of thing when the cold was starting to come to town. People all of a sudden started thinking about their log sets. But we do way more business with our local pros and the contractors out there. So we've seen an increase, and that's really what we want to try and do is help people understand that there is a process to this, there's a method to this, and when you connect it, this is something that you're going to get to look at for a long time. And that's really what we want to do. We want to try and help educate them so that they understand before that log set goes into that firebox. If they're looking for a variable flame, because you brought that up earlier, there's going to be a box next to the actual burner. And it looks kind of weird. It sets it off center sometimes, depending on the size of fireplace they have. So just helping inform our listeners so they're aware, controls are going to determine a lot. And really think about this year, but not just this year, next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I still see people buying match-lit systems, and I'm like, I would never. I would never do a matchless.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point to bring up safety-wise, because, nationally, obviously with propane, all propane units, at a minimum, you have to have what they call a manual safety valve. Standing pilot system, so the pilot is always on unless you choose to have it shut off, but the pilot's always on, and you have that manual control knob that I talked about briefly, and that just ignites your main burner. There are still a lot of parts of the country that you can order the Matchlight natural gas log set, and I try to encourage folks not to do that, and in every conversation, if that burner goes out for whatever reason, downdraft from the chimney or something, and blows that burner out, and folks are in the kitchen entertaining, cooking, things like that, nobody's paying attention, that fireplace is just going to continue to flow natural gas until someone notices it. So folks, yeah, it's definitely important. At a minimum, a manual safety valve. So it's just really thinking about if you just want a simple manual control, if you want an on and off handheld remote control, or you want a variable flame remote control.
Yeah, that is, as you consider, Randy, I never thought I would say this, but as I make changes in my own home, everything's becoming smart. I can control, I put all new lights in my kitchen and living room. They're all controllable via my phone. I have the ability to do things in my house now that, I got to be honest, I sit here in my late 40s giggling like a little kid going, this is Jetsons kind of stuff, It
is. It's crazy. I know. Every time I do something at the house, am I going to be able to control that with the app my wife asked me? I put a camera outside the house. I have the thermostat and all these different things, and
Yep.
and she's like, yeah, I just want to be able to control all of that. I want to be able to see what's going on. We want to make sure that everything is off inside the house.
It's amazing.
Like,
you're
so
right.
that's what these controls do. So aside from the luxury part of being able to have a handheld remote is, in the scenario we talked about a minute ago, if that burner goes out, the valve is going to shut down.
Right.
It's going to shut the system down. So we're not going to have to worry about gas flow. So, like you, Mike, you have, a little one at home and adult boys. I have 4 adult kids. And these are the kind of things that I don't have to worry about if they're using these appliances, that if they leave them unattended and those flames go out, I know the system's going to shut itself down. That's what they're designed to do.
That's a solid point. Let's speak to the safety issue again, just real fast. The reason we're passionate about safety is because we have seen the effects of recklessness. We lean heavily on our pros. We lean heavily on our training through our manufacturers. And folks, I can tell you this, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. When you stop and think about gas and fire in your home, be smart and let's be safe, because you just don't know. And I don't like to take chances with that type of stuff. I'll take a chance with a floor or a shade or a curtain or whatever, right? It's not going to hurt anyone. To our pros, this is one space where, you know, we know a lot of our pros carry log sets themselves, right? They'll have options. They don't carry the amount that we carry, and so we have a lot of partners out there who, you know, they've even stopped carrying log sets and just lean on us to supply, as well as to kind of walk through the features of each log set. For our pros out there, you know, you guys are amazing at what you do. We really appreciate what you do. If you have questions about particular log sets, though, don't hesitate to call us. We'll absolutely be happy to walk you through it. And, you know, we do things one of two ways. We'll either work directly through the pro and the pro can buy directly from us, or we'll work with the homeowner on the style, the look, the control, what they want to do, and then get back in touch with the pro to go, okay, here's the log set they've selected. Here are some of the tidbits that you need to know about this particular log set.
Yeah, very, very common. We'll work directly with them, and they'll give their choices over to their client, and their clients will actually just come in and purchase it. They've just worked out all of the installation, the design part of it with their client, kind of like, you know, we'll three-party it, and then their client will just come in and purchase it directly from us.
Lean heavily on our pros, really appreciate them. So, Randy, we've got a Fireplace that can have a gas log set. We have gas run to it, and I know which beautiful log set I want to look at. I know how I want to control it in terms of ignition, safety, as well as variable up and down, remote control, all of the different options that are out there. Is there anything else that you can think of that we might need to share or somebody might want to know in terms of selecting a gas log set?
I think another real common question is, because folks are going from wood to gases, can they use that log set, the gas log set, with their glass doors closed? The answer is always no. If we're putting controls, whether it's a manual safety valve or any kind of remote control, we're putting those into the fireplace. So when you close those doors, you're trapping all of that heat within inside of that, and that is going to melt and or overheat all of those controls, as well as the ignition system for the log set on the inside. So when you're using gas log sets, the fireplace glass doors need to be in the open position at all times.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. That is the most common question, because the rule is you're not supposed to burn a wood-burning fireplace with the doors closed, with your glass doors closed. So we get a lot of that question, hey, now that I'm converting over to gas, can I close the doors now? No.
Right, exactly. No, because, you know, it is. It's a common question, and I mean, it's a very fair and good question, and because we don't expect folks to know. But yeah, it is a lot different than burning wood, and we definitely don't want you know, someone to go through the expense of having gas ran and buying this super nice log set, and then call us and say, it's all melted, it don't work.
Yeah. Because we've been through it enough times when they say, hey, this thing melted my, and we go, oh, did you close your glass doors?
Exactly, yeah.
That's a good one. That is a good one. You have been listening to the Experts in Fire podcast by Woodland Direct. I'm your host, Mike Vennard. Thanks for joining us today. Next time, we'll be discussing how electric fireplaces create versatility in commercial installations. We'll see you then.